All right, guys, welcome to CapeCast. How's everybody doing tonight?
Doing good, Ryan. How are you doing?
Doing good, doing good. We got our two resident Marvel guests back this week.
As dubbed by you.
Hey, I've seen your walls, and I see Britt's walls too. So, so how are you guys doing?
Doing good, doing good.
Good.
A little anxious.
Let's do
with this live show.
Yeah. So yeah, bear with us if we've got any technical issues or anything. This is our first live episode on using StreamYard, but definitely want to see you guys in the comments, and we'll try to engage with you the best we can as we kind of talk through this thing. Tonight we are going to be breaking down, reviewing WandaVision, the 7th episode, called Breaking the Fourth Wall. And as usual, let's kind of go around the room and give our general thoughts on it. And let's start with Brandon.
Are you sure? You want to start with
Positive.
me?
Positive.
Okay. Well, this episode, I don't know, man. It was kind of a little bit of a momentum, I guess, block as far as. I don't know what I was expecting. I think what I was expecting is my mind to be blown because Britt texted me and hyped me up right before I watched it. And at the end of it, I was like, okay, well, I mean, I assume we're going full spoilers, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Disclaimer, spoilers.
They've had a few days by now.
It's been a week now, so.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the whole Agnes reveal was seemingly what everybody kind of assumed. So that kind of bomb was, I guess the impact of it wasn't as impactful for me. Maybe it was for other people. And that's probably because I don't really have that association. So I'm glad that Britt is here so that he can kind of fill me in as to why this is such a big deal. So, yeah. But I mean, I didn't think it was a bad episode. Obviously, I am an Office fan. So this decade of the TV genre that they were kind of aiming for was very inspired by The Office. So I dig that. But as far as I feel like it was one of the lesser ones. As far as just if I was going to rate it, it would be kind of towards the bottom. So.
Gotcha. Did you when you say lesser, you mean less than first 2 episodes or
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Really? Okay.
Probably.
Wow.
Yeah.
So interesting. Yeah. So Brandon texted me right after you texted him, Britt. I was like, I think he hyped me up too much for this one.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what I was expecting. I was just expecting some big, huge reveal that wasn't a common fan theory. I was expecting some major character introduction or a Magneto introduction or something crazy like that. So Britt, it's your fault.
I know.
Way to go.
I didn't hate it. I still liked the episode. It kind of all right,
okay.
Wasn't as strong. So
Chris, what'd you think?
I mean, in a lot of ways, I'm kind of on Brandon's side with this one. This kind of fell into what I've been saying for the past few is they're losing me a lot throughout the episode. Just this formula of this 24-minute episode. Let's spend the first 17 kind of recreating an old show that has no real plot or anything that I care about. We'll see glimpses of kind of the B movie version of the MCU happening outside the Hex. And then we'll get to something interesting that's going to pull me back in and make me forget about all my complaints. So it's kind of the same thing, I think, with this episode. I don't remember if I spoke about it on here or if Brandon, you and I were just talking, but I was very aware of all the Agatha theories and I didn't buy into them. I was like, yeah, I've heard them, but I don't think so. So obviously I was wrong. But I do think, what's her name? Catherine Hahn? Is that the actor?
Yeah.
I think she's great and tons of charm. And seeing like
Agreed.
the Agatha, all like that whole thing and the little montage. She was great in that. Of the memes that have come out of it. So I am glad to see that they did that with her character. But yeah, I mean, I'm kind of down on most of it for the same reasons I've been down on all of the episodes. But they've done enough with how they end it to keep me wondering. And all right, I'll tune in again.
Got it. All right, I'm gonna jump in before Britt here because I know Britt's got some
good.
feelings.
He's
and I
gonna
want him
school
to
us.
be-
He's gonna school all of us.
Yeah, I want him to be the finale here. I think I'm higher on it than Brandon is. I was fine. I was glad to finally, like the title says, glad to kind of see the charade fall a little bit. And this kind of was an episode I've wanted to see an episode where we see Agnes shine a little bit more, just because I do think she's such a I don't know, integral part of the show, and people talk about Agent Wu and all that, but I feel like she's the one that is, as far as like charisma goes, she's the one that really stands out. I will preface this by saying too, I had no knowledge of who Agatha Harkness was in the comics at all. So like after I watched this episode, I was like, who is this? But yeah, so for me, it probably, that Pietro episode is still cream of the crop for me. This is probably middle of the pack ish. But
Cream
all
of the
right,
crop, middle of the pack.
that's right. Yeah. Cream of the crop. I'm trying to talk so you understand things, Brandon, out there on the farm.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. So Britt, let's have it.
Yeah. So with me, I can see the different perspectives of it, as well as I think a lot of people just kind of assumed, right? Agatha was this whole piece here. As we get into it, as we talk, I think there's still a lot of pieces that are still out there that we're going to see, and there's some hints to a lot of that in this particular episode. But I think there was some really big pieces in this particular episode that maybe were a little predictable, but I do think they were kind of setting up some bigger stuff. You had Monica Rambeau getting her powers as she went through the hex. So this could potentially, like we mentioned on the last episode, that this could be kind of this trigger to see more mutants into the universe. We don't really know how this hex is going to go away, right? It could do a huge explosion, goes around the world, whatever, hits a bunch of people, and maybe that triggers some stuff. We saw something similar when you look at like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and how the Inhumans kind of came up in that particular series. So there was a lot there. But I think the one thing that's really cool about WandaVision, and I'm curious to see if there will be this many intricacies with Falcon Winter Soldier and Loki and the other series coming out. But I do find that these series have so many Easter eggs that if you watch it like 3, 4, 5 times, you're still finding little pieces in there. And again, I love to watch everything out there, all the YouTube videos and theories and things like that. And it's funny even to watch some of the big names on YouTube miss something, and then their second video they put out, they're like, oh yeah, by the way, I missed this, or what I thought that is actually this. And one of those, which I thought was really cool that they added in there. So the Office intro that Brandon kind of alluded to, as it was going through, there was the license plate, and it had the numbers at the top of the license plate, which was Stanley's birthday. So there was some people that didn't. Again, it's just numbers, but if you look at it, it's his birthday. So it was their nod of, again, he's not in any of the films or anything, but this was kind of their way of kind of pulling him in.
Sure.
But Stanley,
as we
Stanley
talk
from The Office,
right?
Yeah, good clarification there.
Yeah, and so as we go through this, I think there's a lot of little details that add more to the episode. But I can totally get those, feelings of partially the Agatha reveal is kind of maybe was something people were expecting, as well as I think when you talk about Pietro still being one of your favorite episodes, I think that standalone of him standing in the door was so much better than him in the following episode and so on.
I agree,
So
yeah.
I definitely agree that there's moments
So
that are
much
really
potential
cool.
there with that one. Like you were like, what are they gonna do? Or how are they gonna handle this character? Well, you guys have
Exactly.
mentioned the Office. You know, some people said the Modern Family type feel of this episode. How did you like? How did that stack up? Because every episode has kind of had its own decade stylized type deal. How did this episode stack up for you guys in that regard compared to the others?
I really liked, I mean, obviously I already said I like The Office, but I love the theme song for the new intro. Obviously very reminiscent of The Office. I like the documentary style, you know, kind of format that The Office uses and they mime here. Now, I think it was a cool element to use to kind of get into Wanda's head a little bit in terms of how much she's losing it. And am I right? Like that, just like, you know, getting that perspective more like a, you know, as far as like, I mean, I've never watched Modern Family, but I assume that they were also kind of miming that a
very
little bit.
closely mirroring it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I dug it. How about you guys?
Chris?
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of been a fan of how they've very closely like imitated these old shows and thrown themselves into it. My problem has just been like how much time they spend on it and how they don't really do anything story wise with it. It's just like a whole lot of filler. I feel like I'm waiting for like a cool comic book issue to come out, or I'm watching Dragon Ball Z again. It's just like, all right, get through this and like let's get to the next thing. So while I've appreciated every episode, I do have like, you know, kind of that double-sided sword with it.
Yeah,
but no, this one is cool. It's so recent and it's just like almost more palatable in, you know, an extended format, just because you're used to it more so than like the throwbacks.
Yeah, definitely can see that.
That's one of the
Britt?
things that I was
go
sorry.
ahead.
I don't want to cut anyone off or prevent Britt from speaking his truth here. But I'm wondering,
Good comment.
and maybe I should hold this. Maybe I should wait until we get more in depth in this. But, or do you want to take this question?
Now we got a comment that probably relates to your Office stuff here. If you want to touch on it, this is Austin. He said, "Speaking of The Office, I'm bummed. It looks like there won't be the Krasinski Reed Richards appearance in episode 9. Who do you guys think the big cameo will be?"
So, I mean, do we know that that's not happening? Has that been like confirmed somewhere?
It hasn't. So there's two pieces to it. One is Paul Bettany was in an interview earlier this week, and he actually made the mention of there's an actor he's always wanted to work with that is in this series that nobody's seen yet. So we're still getting a giant cameo in the next, 2 episodes. But I don't think so. I think, to be honest, I think what we saw was sleight of hand. Essentially, everybody was expecting to see this aerospace engineer with the vehicle, which, again, I'm sure we'll talk about the whole scenes and stuff in a little bit. But, we didn't see an aerospace engineer. We saw essentially the team dropping off the vehicle. And so I think that there's some sleight of hand there to where we still haven't actually met who that particular person is.
Now, do you think that person would be Reed Richards? He exists within the MCU already. Rambo has that rapport, and we just have never heard of him before? Or do you see a Reed Richards appearance would be from another universe, like maybe like an Agatha tie-in, because she was originally like a Fantastic Four character, and maybe it's like a multiverse type play there.
So she is originally Fantastic Four?
Yeah, in Fantastic Four, I don't think a lot of people realize, because the MCU and the Marvels in general really haven't shown a whole lot of love to the Fantastic Four. We've had a few movies, none of them great, but that was really like the baby of Marvel Comics forever. I mean, that's where Spider-Man first kind of like showed up, trying to like be a part of the team, and they've been the big hitters, over the decades. So it's definitely like, a property that's very near and dear to like Marvel themselves' heart, that we really haven't seen so much as far as like cinematic fans. But yeah, Agatha Harkness was like a nanny of sorts for Franklin Richards, which was the the daughter or son, sorry, of Sue Storm and Reed Richards, and I think Franklin. Like, I never read a whole lot of the Fantastic Four comics, and none of them that had Agnes in them. But a lot of the event stuff that I'd read, like Franklin's always kind of regarded as one of the most powerful beings in the Marvel universe.
So the question is, who do we think the big cameo will be? Who? I mean, so if we're, I don't know if it's not Reed Richards. I mean, I would love. Well, he's talking about an actor, right? Not an actual character. That's
right.
what
He's
Paul
talking
Bettany
about
was
an actor, right?
I mean, I'm just
Yeah,
gonna
you
go
can
on a
answer
limb.
it
I'm
both
gonna
ways.
say Ben Affleck's Batman.
Yeah, let's call it a wrap.
Okay.
Here we go.
got the
We're
ver-
trying
we
to
got
do
verses
something
coming.
Marvel here, Brandon.
Oh.
I'm saying it's the Sorcerer Supreme.
You wore the shirt and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's. So I'll answer. I'm going to answer as a character versus actor. I would agree. The Doctor Strange thing seems to be the most likely. Like, given the story, I don't know if there's been reports of the opposite or anything, but that seems like the most likely to me, at least.
Well, we know
The
we know that Scarlet Witch is in Multiverse of Madness.
Mm-hmm.
So that would make sense.
But I think
have
that's
him.
I think it's a little too obvious in the fact that Paul Bettany had to have at some point worked with Benedict Cumberbatch already in the other movies, right? Like in
That's a good point.
So somebody
Infinity War.
Google it.
so
6
I
degrees
did
of separation.
see,
Paul Bettany to Benedict Cumberbatch.
That's right.
So I did see an article today, actually, and again, don't know how true this is or anything like that, but potentially, Jennifer Lawrence is supposed to be headed to Australia to film some scenes.
I saw that too.
As Sue Storm.
Didn't she hate Mystique though, like playing that role?
Yeah, but I think that was due to a lot of makeup and things like that until they finally got to the digital.
Yeah, I mean that's
aspect
why
of it.
she's more J-Law in those movies towards the last few installments than Mystique.
Yeah.
So
And
again,
it's probably also part studio like wanting to sell her as a name for the movie because she was huge. So
and because they're filming Thor, the new Thor movie down there, it could just be, if it's true, it could just be her kind of in a cameo there, which would make sense to see a Reed Richards here. The only downside to that, if it is true, a lot of people wanted John Krasinski, but they also wanted his wife as Sue Storm, and now
Emily Blunt.
Yeah, so this could ruin at least part of that, which could mean it could be a different casting if it is in fact Reed Richards. I still feel like it would be more interesting if we got a Victor Von Doom, pre.
I did like
Doom
that angle that you
showing
had
up.
when we talked about in the last episode. As much as I would love, and everybody would love to see John Krasinski in the role as Reed Richards, it's just too, like, it seems too like good to be true. It's one, it's never like who you think it's going to be for a role like that.
Yeah.
Britt, what do you think of some iteration of Charles Xavier? Maybe it's James McAvoy. I know that as far as if we're looking at the House of M kind of take on these comics and the event, he was kind of closely tied to her creating the illusion and trying to snap her out of the initial issues that she was having before she snapped.
Yeah, it would be really interesting because, and I think they would have to play. They're gonna have to walk a tightrope with that, right? Because now we already have Pietro in here from that same series. If they go with McAvoy with the younger Charles Xavier, I think the older one would be the most crazy thing they could do. But at the same time, we have to be talking about multiverses at that point, which would be really interesting. But I know he's also mentioned like he doesn't want to come back as Charles Xavier after Logan. He feels like his storyline was told with Logan, and I know when they were filming Legion, the FX series, essentially Legion is Professor X's son who has a whole bunch of powers and personalities. They talked about potentially bringing him back for Xavier in that series, which didn't happen because he felt like it would cheapen the Logan movie by bringing him back. So if it was that, it probably would be the McAvoy Professor X or a whole new casting, which I don't know what the fans would say about that, having a third Professor X.
I mean, they're already talking about, there are theories out there, obviously, that Pietro is Mephisto or, whoever else. Like, maybe it is like that. In my opinion, that would be a cool angle to take, is like, you may be bringing in these characters like in a role that that you're familiar with them being, but like taking some of them and like putting a spin on it. So like bringing in somebody like Xavier, like as Xavier, would be kind of cool to have. So you like don't know if these characters coming in are going to be like their traditional roles, or if they're going to be something, completely different.
Yeah, exactly.
Go ahead, Brandon. Sorry, I don't want to interrupt you.
No, I was going to say, this is specifically for Ryan. Did you get any Man of Steel, young Clark? The world is too big, Mom. Things when he was talking about all the noise.
I did
so
think
loud.
about that. Yep. I think I made a comment to Katie about that when we were watching. It's like, you can't pull my head completely out of the DC stuff. You can't do it.
No way. No way.
Yeah.
Do you guys buy the like, I guess the more general question is, Evan Peters, like, is Pietro, like, what do you think's, where do you think they're going to go with this character? Obviously the end of this episode.
I would love for them to have a cool Quicksilver moment. I mean, that's where I want them to go with it, just in general. Like, because that's what everybody wants to see.
You don't like the silly
with that
string
character.
scene?
No.
I don't know. It's up there.
Stealing
And all the
candy.
candy's gone. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I want to see this budget. I want this reported $220 million budget. We've had a few small little,
It's all of it
glimpses of it, but
costume and CG and
right. So I'm wondering if the next 2 episodes are gonna be a little bit more bigger in scope. But
yeah, I think we're gonna get some potentially some pretty big epic battle scenes with magic and whatnot. I mean, again, skipping forward, but then I'm sure we'll come back. But you mentioned Pietro showing up in the after credit scene or the mid credit scene. One thing to point out is his eyes were purple, just like when Agatha was messing with Wanda and had the purple on her face and stuff. So, it's definitely one of those. It's not Wanda that brought him back. You can tell that Agatha brought him back. If it is him. But yeah, I don't know. I'm real curious where they're going to go with it. It's still, in my opinion, a little strange because, again, with Vision, like we talked about, Wanda got his body, so it makes sense that he's in this world. But Pietro's body, last time we saw it was in Sokovia. I mean, they did bring him back, but where did this body get dug up from and brought into this world if it truly is him rather than just, some other person or just a whole figment,
sure. No.
yeah.
Good.
No, I was just thinking.
Also kind of talking. So obviously he was kind of the first angle with the mutants in this show. And people are, from what I've read online, and it seems like like the easiest of ends, we're talking about Monica Rambeau potentially becoming Spectrum now.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask, because I don't know what this is. I don't know who she's supposed to be. So talk to me like I'm an idiot, Britt. Go ahead.
Like usual,
Chris,
that's what he's saying.
Feel free to jump in as well. But Monica Rambeau has been in several comics and had several names. So one of her names was Photon, which we had the reference of her mom's call name or call sign for her being her pilot and everything. But the one that's probably most likely to be used is Spectrum. She has powers so that she can use light energy. She can see different waves of energy. Spectrum, being the obvious thing. But when she came through, that's really what she was seeing everywhere. And so potentially, like we saw with the mashup of her and Wanda, she can also manipulate Wanda's magic because it's some level of energy. So that's where I think when I'm talking about in the next couple episodes, I think you're going to get a big showdown because it's going to probably have to be Monica trying to rescue, maybe with the help of Vision and things like that, rescue Wanda from Agatha. And I've got another little thought for a little bit later, and we'll talk about Dottie a little bit later, potentially being another magic user in this world. So I don't know, Chris, anything else you can think of from your side?
I mean, I never read any of the comics personally that had Rambo in it as Photon or Spectrum or anything. I know I mentioned to you guys last week that I always get Marvel gifts from people, and one of them recently was like the Marvel Almanac of characters. So like I did flip through that recently, and saw a lot of the stuff you just kind of touched on. And the only thing kind of outside of that I was aware of is she's supposed to be very, very powerful of a character, like up there with kind of Captain Marvel level strength. Yep. I know that her power origin was something totally different in the comics, nothing to do with this. And she's been around, I think, like since the 70s or the 80s or something. But yeah, she's supposed to be extremely powerful and energy, like absorption and stuff like that. I don't know.
What did you guys think of her intro, that scene? Like,
it was cool going through the
power, God.
Yeah, like the visuals were cool of her going through the hex. I was kind of confused. Like the first time she went through, she kind of like just fell through it, right? And this time it was like she had to. She somehow knew she couldn't get through now, and she had this stupid vehicle like built in the field somewhere waiting for her, and they stand 200 yards back and then run up, and it's destroyed. But she forces her way through. I didn't understand any of that, of why she fell through and had to force her way through in the vehicle, but it was a cool visual of her going through, and you kind of got a glimpse of maybe a costume.
I dug the half truck afterwards. I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
But Brandon, what were you saying?
No, I just assume it's something to do with because her, they addressed that her chemical makeup has changed since she's gotten back. So I imagine it's just something to where, because of that, she was allowed to force her way through there. And then it just kind of completely rewrote her makeup again. I guess that's the way they're doing I don't know. We assume the mutant gene kind of stuff.
Because the other thing, just real quick, when you were talking about like the first time she kind of put her hand on it and it sucked her in compared to this one, this is after Wanda kind of came out there and then
expanded.
Yeah, well, it wasn't like it also wasn't red. It was basically invisible at that point too. So she's got this extra whatever. She's got the Joss Whedon force field going on.
Have you seen his cut?
That's Marvel
League, by the way.
It's fine. Yeah.
No, I don't.
What's Justice League?
It says it's directed by Zack Snyder at the beginning of that movie. I don't know what you're talking about.
I think that comes out on March 18th. But anyways.
But one other thing I just mentioned, thought about when you were talking, Chris, about
it's like real men.
I just was going to throw out. She was also, not only was she Spectrum, but she was Captain Marvel for a stint in the comics. With a black and white suit. So you had mentioned as she's going through, there's kind of like this whole like her being split apart into 3 different parts. There's apparently, I've gone back to watch it. I can't really see it, but apparently they're like one of those is another costume of hers in the comics. And then if you listen closely, just like when the snap happened, there's a lot of talking going on, which is either her mom or Carol saying some stuff and things like that. So I've read the translation of what all was said, and nothing really stands out like crazy to me. But one of them is when I think it's Carol says something when she's little of like, you have a really strong girl or something that back from the Captain Marvel movie.
Sure. Did I do want to make sure we touch on it because you mentioned it last week. So I don't want to forget the commercials each week. You had you had your theory about the stones and everything. So right when I was watching it this week, that was like all I was looking for. I don't know if you want to touch on that, or where you stand with?
As far as that one, again, that was one of those that I saw out there, and it was a very interesting one.
Sure.
But I think this one pretty much says that that's not the case, because this one was all about realities. And so Nexus, what the medicine is, I mean, Marvel has this whole thing of the Nexus is this wall or place in between different realities that they really are starting to hit harder about this multi-reality. And there are different beings in each universe called Nexus beings. And Wanda is a Nexus being, and she's actually the Nexus being for Marvel's main reality in the comic books. And a Nexus being is just somebody who's like super powerful. They're tied to the reality, and they can change other realities. So it's one of those things that, and they're also like kind of throw it out, which is going to be a tie-in most likely to Loki, is Nexus beings are always being watched by the variants, the Time Variance Authority, which is who in the Loki trailer, who he's getting arrested by with, Owen Wilson and everything. But yeah, so I think that may not necessarily show a lot in this one. But it may be something that we get picked up on in the Loki series as well. But it's definitely touching on that fact that she is kind of the piece that's going to branch us into these multi-realities and stuff.
Nice. Also, we had Darcy enter the Hex.
Looking the exact same as she did, just a different outfit.
Yeah. That is accurate. But she had kind of a cool sit down with Vision as they were driving that ice cream truck or whatever it was, where basically just told him like what happened and with this storyline in the Avengers movies. But did you guys have thoughts on that? Did you like how that was executed? Kind of like this is like kind of where Vision finally, starts to like get like a real sense of what's going on, other than like his perceptions of like things being off or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't really. I don't know. I feel like this is not exactly the question that you asked, but with this episode made me kind of start thinking like, am I enjoying this show or am I just waiting for the reveal, quote unquote? Like,
So
am I watching this just so I can be part of the conversation? At this point, because I enjoy the ride. I just don't know if this is a piece of entertainment that I'll return to after it's over. I don't know how you guys feel about that.
I get you,
but
I think I'm on the same page.
Like, it's one of those things where, it's like Lost. Like Lost was such a fun experience watching it live, but I don't know what it is. I find it difficult to return to it. I feel like this is going to be one of those things where, well, I don't know. Lost has so much good like character development interaction. This just seemed like there's no for me. It's like I'm not going to go back and watch. I can't think of any of them that I'd want to go back and return to. It's just like I'm just kind of like I said, I'm enjoying the ride, but it's just not something that it seems like it's going to be more flavor of the week, and then it's just going to be over and done with.
I feel
Whereas
like
the Marvel movies, they still provide that rewatch value. Not that there's not, I guess, like things that you would go back and see that you missed, but
we got Al chiming in. They Live is a good movie. Talk about that. We just did Al.
He said for a long time. He's saying They Live.
They Live.
Oh, They Live.
It's a good movie.
Here we are.
Like yeah, They Live.
Al, you're correct. We are live right now. Thank you for noticing that.
Thanks for stopping by, Al. We appreciate it. We know it's not your cup of tea.
I can see what you're saying though, Brendan. Like it feels like it's just a tie-in to get you from A to B, right?
Yeah.
And so like where there's going to be something in the end. And what I'm hoping for, and I don't know how far it'll go, but what I'm hoping for is very last episode, there's some giant reveal or whatever that makes you, and I think that this episode was supposed to be the episode, but I don't think it did enough for that to where you go, oh man, did I miss more? And I need to go back and look and see the little things I may have missed, right? Like the whole Agatha reveal and her being like, this is when I was messing with you while you were at the, when you were doing the talent show. And yeah, but it's like, I don't feel like there was enough for me to go back and go. So an example is Spider-Man Far From Home. At the very end of that, and you got the big reveal of Mysterio and all of that. If you go back, there's a lot of stuff that you just missed with him literally like being next to him and in different areas and stuff like that. But I feel like this was supposed to be something like that, but maybe not to that level. And so I was hoping as we got to the last 2 episodes, it was like, oh man, now I need to go back and see all those little Easter eggs I missed. And I don't foresee that happening now. So it's one of those things that I can see this being kind of like, I need to watch all the episodes to know where we're going next, but I don't know if I need to return down that road again.
Your thought last week was interesting to me, where you kind of talked about how, Marvel obviously just came off this huge event in Infinity War and Endgame, and like, and it has really felt over the last 2 years. Obviously, COVID's been a part of it, but it's just been, they haven't really had much of a presence. Marvel hasn't really had much of a presence, and it feels like this project is something that's kind of like just like easing you back in, kind of thing, teeing up some concepts. So yeah, what you said just made me think about what you were talking about last week.
Yeah, I need them to hit the gas a little harder.
Yeah, I'm on the same page.
This feels like a similar conversation that we had about Mandalorian early on.
I'd say this is even like more so than that, at least to me.
I agree. Yeah.
Britt's going back to the that ice cream thing you brought up, or that whatever truck it was. Right, you're talking about. I did like the conversation of how she's like, yeah, he died, and then he died again, and she kind of like gave him all the details, and he's taking it in. Like that was cool. I'm glad that we got to see that, and like now we know, like, okay, he is informed, and he already seems to know that he's in this fake reality. He's been through the Hex, he's seen her on the other side, he's seen people kind of get brainwashed, he's awakened, like he's explored, he knows everything's going on. They're in the truck, they get the red light, they get the kids crossing, they get the road work, and he's like, Wanda must be trying to stop me. It's like, you can fly, and all these people are brainwashed. Like, are you trying to hide your power? Like,
that's a good point. It was like a very obvious aside.
Go. I don't know, that's my one comment on that.
Kelly pointed that out too when we were watching. She's like, why didn't he just fly? I'm like, well, we got to get some story here, I guess.
I guess we also need to talk about the kind of reveal of Agatha and like how that whole thing happened, with Agnes offering to watch her kids, and that was kind of the conduit for getting her over there and discovering the secret passageway and stuff. But how'd you guys feel about how they handled that reveal? Were you expecting more from it, or were you satisfied with what you got?
I know Britt's got the Easter eggs.
Yeah,
he's got the inside scoop.
It's one of those things that, like we mentioned before, I think if with so many people out there saying this is who this is, I think it kind of diminished the reveal a little bit. But I think it was a really great reveal. I think that when it happened, there are some pieces in here that we may see come to light as they were in there. One, she has the rabbit. She's named it Senior Scratchy, or Senior, Senior Scratchy. And so again, her son in the comics is Nicholas Scratch, who is also another wizard. So potentially that could be something within
he
there.
He was more of a villain, correct? In the comics, correct. Where she really wasn't, which is kind of like a flip that they've done.
So you kind of have that. You have, which was kind of strange, but you had like the cicada on the window seal or the window blinds that were just kind of there, the curtains. And
I was like,
and again,
right when that happened, I was like, Silence of the Lambs? Like, is that what's going on?
and there's
Have you checked
there's
the
a
well?
nod, and there's a nod to that one in a book. And again, I only know this because I saw someone else talking about it. But in one of the comics, Mephisto is a bug that's laying a bunch of larvae and things like that. So again, this could be a nod, as a lot of people were joking around that maybe the bunny was Mephisto, in the first couple episodes and stuff. So a nod there, but I think the one that stands out is so you mentioned earlier with I think it's Tommy was saying that all the voices and all that he could hear everybody. Well, when we get to the point of him being in her house, he's like, I like it here. It's really quiet and I can't hear your thoughts. So I think there's something within that. There's something more to that, whether it's her just blocking his powers or whatever. But I thought that was kind of one of those like, interesting there. So
Do you think we're gonna get at this point in the show after this episode? Do you think that Mephisto is going to be a part of it?
So there has to be a big bad. Yeah, there has to be a big bad. So one of the big things is as she walks down the stairs, you see all kind of emblems and heads of demons and things around the walls. If you kind of slow it down, but there's a book on the table, and the book could potentially be the Darkhold, which I'll talk about in a second. But these are the books that are reminiscent to Doctor Strange that they have kind of put away. So if you think back at Caecilius, where he was getting Dormammu, he was having to read the book to, for the different dimensions and stuff. So this could be the Darkhold. The Darkhold has, pieces back to Mephisto, Dormammu. King the Conqueror is also another big name surrounding that. But the biggest thing that if this is the Darkhold, this is what we had talked about before. This is what could introduce Blade. This is what could introduce Ghost Rider, in that whole series. And so we don't know what book this is. But if that is the book, and we have seen the book in, it looks different, but we've seen the book in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. when they introduced Ghost Rider, both sets of Ghost Riders. And they've also introduced it in the Hulu series. And I'm drawing a blank of the name. And
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. And Hailstrom as well has kind of referenced it a few times. And so that could be potential interesting because I mentioned as well, Hailstrom is in the same world as Ghost Rider. They have a lot of the same powers as Ghost Rider, dealing with demons and things like that. And I sent you an article earlier, Brandon, about Star coming to Disney Plus. And one of the titles that are going to be,
because I didn't see it.
It should be in your. It should be in chat on Facebook. In chat.
Well, that's why I didn't see it.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry.
No,
But
I'll text it to you.
Thank you. Well, just send me a wolf.
Okay,
That's the best way.
Be a wolf. It'll show up on everything.
Right.
Just beep him.
Is that the whole like Fox Library, like Touchstone, all those? So I know that they had done that in different territories. So they're doing that here now, or
So it's going live in the UK, Canada, and like 3 other countries first. But what's interesting in that list of shows is Hailstrom is in that list, and Hailstrom is a Hulu original. So it's just interesting of what they picked and choose. The Runaways was the one I was thinking about a second ago. The Runaways are not on that list to come over. So it's just kind of strange that they picked that one particular show. And again, they also have Deadpool and a couple other of the Fox and other series coming over. So it could be that this could be, the Darkhold, and this could be how they bring in Blade and allow it to be an R-type rating and live in that same world over there as well.
yeah.
Chris, what are you, as far as the Mephisto thing goes, are you thinking that that's not going to be a thing, or do you think it's still a possibility?
I mean, I think
At
it's
this
definitely
point.
a possibility. I think there's plenty of reasons of why it's a popular theory. I really hope that that's what happens. I think it'd be a cool character, a cool like villain to see, in live action. I believe in the comics, like the whole origin of Tommy and Billy is kind of like energy or shards or something from Mephisto to kind of create them. And he's kind of been like a character who appears and does things like almost imagine kind of like early MCU Loki, but more like
Sure. I remember him from
like, not so much mischievous, but like really evil.
I remember him from Ultimate Alliance 2, I think.
It's a great game.
But how would they? Yeah, I love that game. Super addicting. He's such a like. I mean, he looks like a demon. Like, it'd be interesting to see how they.
Just get Nicolas Cage to do it.
There you go. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how they, visually how they approach that character, or if they just make him like humanoid and call it a day or whatever.
I do find it also interesting, and you mentioned about the whole shards and the twins. Now the fact that she couldn't find the twins, so she's like, "Oh, the twins are in the basement." She goes down there; they're not there. They're not upstairs. Yeah. And again, they're pretty powerful with their speed and their powers. So it could be interesting with them all of a sudden disappearing. Could be reference to potentially Mephisto, getting his shards back so that he can come back.
Yeah, I will give some credit. The whole like disappearing of the twins, like I thought the way they did that and kind of like the eeriness and worry that Elizabeth Olsen showed there, and it kind of came in a part in the episode where I wasn't necessarily expecting that. So it was cool, and I liked all the visuals of like as she goes into the basement, how it becomes more of this dungeon,
the vines and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, like it looked, the budget was there. It looked great design. So yeah, I was a fan of that.
There you go, Brandon.
For sure.
There's your budget.
How many million?
So I'm not seeing it. Brandon's got high standards
right there.
Don't buy it.
I'm just kidding. All right, guys. Is there anything else you guys want to chat on before we end the show? Britt, looking at you.
So the only other thing I wanted to kind of point out, which I found really fascinating with someone that brought this up. So we've seen Agatha be in a bunch of the different areas, right? And so she's kind of stepped in a couple places when Wanda's having a tough time, and maybe her powers aren't functioning correctly or whatever, right? But there's another part that happens with Dottie. So Dottie, as Wanda and Monica were kind of squaring off, Dottie was standing outside with her yellow flowers that she was doing. So it was mentioned, I went back and checked it out. In front of Wanda's house is red flowers, and in front of Agatha's house is purple flowers. So there's a potential that Dottie could be another sorcerer, and her powers are yellow. And back in the comics, that lines up with her comic personality.
Man, this show totally like it's crazy how many like little nods, like potential nods. Like I'm sure they have so much fun with like doing that kind of stuff, and then just as misdirection too, just for like the fanboys out there, like you pick up on it. Anyway, sorry, I mean interrupt you.
No, I mean, and I think that's kind of the thing. Like, what I find interesting on it is the fact that when Agatha walks down, she makes the mention of, you're not the only one that can, do magic. So she's nodding to the fact that like there's multiple people out there that are sorcerers, and we already learned that in Doctor Strange and stuff. So
sure,
I definitely find it interesting when you look at those different pieces, and to your point, like I think this is one of those series that just has so many Easter eggs and so many things crammed into it. Yeah. And I don't know if we're going to get all the payoffs in the next 2 episodes, even though I believe the next 2 episodes are supposed to be an hour long each, based on the total runtime of the series and what's left to go. But I just found the Dottie thing to be very interesting in the fact that we could see this giant battle coming up, like that they've already hinted at with. Yeah, I mean they've already hinted at it in some of the previews of, Vision saying if this is our home, let's fight for it. So it's going to be really interesting with what Sword's doing on the outside, as they were already gearing up to storm in, and that was kind of briefed over, and then they disappeared for the rest of the episode. So it'll be kind of interesting what they do there.
Yeah, it'd be cool to see them. We've kind of settled in on the like protag and antagonist. It sounds like it'd be cool to see them bring in a third wheel with those kind of powers.
Yeah, and I've got one more thing.
Go for it, man. Let's hear it.
Which I think is cool.
Let's hear it.
If so, one of the things is we're in the 2000s, right, for this series. So you asked the question earlier, like how do we like this decade of movies? And I think there's a couple things that I found interesting. So one of them is we got our first mid-credit scene. And so again, after I saw it this time, I'm like, oh man, have I like missed it on like episode 4 or something? Because after the first 2 or 3, I just quit checking.
Sure.
But if you look at that lines up with when we started the Marvel Universe, right? 2000 ish in that area is where we started the whole Iron Man and all of that, which is when all movies started doing mid-credit and end-credit scenes. So
that's
they've been very true to their decades. So it could be a funny nod, like moving forward we have end credit scenes because that's when it kind of started in the decades. And they put out a poster for the for Agent Wu for next episode. And one of the things they mentioned in this one is that there's no longer a broadcast for WandaVision. So on the outside, they can't see in anymore. But now that we're in the 2000s, that's about the time when you couldn't use your rabbit ears anymore on TVs. And we started having a digital signal. So there's a potential, and it's kind of hinted at in that poster, that the next episode they're going to be able to see back in because they're using newer technology instead of the old school TV that they were using in the previous episodes.
I think, man, Brandon may have mentioned it the last episode, but be crazy to like sit in on a brainstorming session with this crew or see their whiteboards or whatever. Just because there's there's the main storyline, but then there's just like the stylistic side of this show that's like almost its own animal. But yeah. Brandon.
So if this week was 2000s. There's 2 episodes left, 2010s, 2020. Are we going to have like a future? Like, do you think by the end of the final episode that the button scene could be like future button type? Like because we're just now, as far as, us as people. 2000. I don't know if you know this. It's 2021, so we're at the beginning of it. So it's not like, unless they just say, okay, 2021, this is where we're at. Maybe they do, but I'm wondering if they use it to their advantage and have some sort of like, holy crap, like this is the future. Yeah. Hey, Chris.
Well,
Camera's changed a little bit.
Hey, just so everybody does, we got to call it out because he put a lot of effort into it. If you notice his background, he's got some WandaVision color scheme going on tonight. Yeah. I know Britt appreciates it. It looks good.
Oh yeah. I don't have all my colored lights going at the moment, but off
the wall.
I do think kind of going into that, we mentioned the big baddie. So King the Conqueror is one of the future villains. It's already been announced that he's going to be in Ant-Man, in the next Ant-Man movie, and he is definitely one of the biggest villains in like the newer comics, I guess, with his time traveling and stuff. So there could possibly be, and King Conqueror also has ties back to Agatha. So there could be something in here where that becomes your last episode. You're either going into the future or just the multiverse in general starts to kind of open up that future-based stuff. So I think it's possible that we could see a little bit of that. But I don't know. I definitely think that we'll get the 2010s and this next one and kind of the 2020 open-ended, going into that multiverse, setup of the movie.
So what's your guess as to what the 2010, like, I guess,
I don't know if we're going to keep moving with the Agatha reveal. This one felt, I know it's like we just kind of went past the 90s Malcolm Middle. We're now in the 2000s, but it felt very like current to me watching this one. So I don't know if having that Agatha reveal that kind of like ends this formula that we've been seeing like thus far, like the show's over and it's like something else is going on.
It seems like
Britt's saying that they're getting digital TVs. so they're going to get picked up.
Well,
I
they got a
think
monitor.
I think honestly, if you're asking where the budget is, I think we're gonna see it and it's gonna look like an MCU movie. I think that
That's kind of what I hope.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think that this is where we're gonna see the big battle scene, right? Sword trying to come in and them defending, whether that's next episode or the following. I mean, it's got to most likely be both episodes, but I
they
think
say
that's
one
where
of
we're
the-
gonna see the next one.
One of the episodes coming up is like 50 minutes or close to it or something.
Yeah.
40 something, 47, I think.
Yeah.
I feel like they all should be.
Yeah.
in it.
Well, what's interesting about this show is that all these episodes have been directed by the same guy. Unlike, most TV shows, which
Like
have multiple
Mandalorian.
directors. Yeah. It's pretty
Yeah.
common to have different directors. You have a showrunner and then you have, different people. They divvy up the episodes too, but Matt Shankman is the guy, or Shakeman, Matt Shackman, maybe. But yeah, he doesn't have any like feature credits, I don't believe. Mostly TV, Succession, The Boys, Game of Thrones, Always Sunny. But yeah, so it's interesting that he's kind of spearheaded this whole thing.
Especially with the different styles of every episode. It feels like it would make sense if it was different directors.
Yeah.
No, right. Yeah,
Yeah.
it would.
That is true. It's kind of lends itself to that.
But
Yeah.
back to what you were saying, I think Chris said it, maybe Britt said it. I honestly do hope that the next two episodes are more, movie. It's, straight on, like we're done with the TV format and we're going, straight up big budget movie. So I don't have to keep juggling these aspect ratios. Jeez.
So now it comes out. This has been the reason he's been critical this evening.
Yeah.
For the
That's it.
sake of Brandon's theater.
Yeah.
So, no, I
What's the
definitely
Snyder
think
ratio.
Do I?
Hey, it's
What's
going to
the
be
Snyder
consistent.
ratio?
It's
Yeah,
like,
that's right.
What, 1.331 or something? I can't
Yeah,
remember.
Brandon's putting in a custom screen for that screening.
Nope. It works.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Good.
We're good.
That's what I need to hear because I'll be there.
Yep.
All right, guys. Anything else before we sign off?
Chris, you got any theories? 2 episodes left.
I mean, I'm wondering if we'll get a Loki time cop thing, kind of a tie-in, especially, Bro was mentioning Kang the Conqueror and all the time travel there, and we've seen time kind of jumps, and we don't know how that is, if it's just an illusion so far in the show. So I don't know if this is maybe going to be another springboard for the next show. I don't know. I mean, I feel like now the safe bet is definitely something Mephisto, but past that, I don't know.
Yeah.
Right on. So, guys, we'll be back again next week to talk through the next episode. We'll be live this weekend, Brandon and I, to talk through a Zack Snyder IGN event.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
2 of us.
Are you guys going to be live?
Plug.
Talking
Oh, yeah.
Snyder.
We're going to be live. We're going to be
Yeah,
live.
Do it live.
For sure.
We'll do it live.
We'll do it live. And Britt, you want to go ahead and plug your Twitch stream or anything specific?
No, I mean, again, if you want to check it out, it's just twitch.tv/defaultdan. Again, just play some random games, have fun over there. But yeah, no, definitely, you guys, if you're watching this now, make sure to go watch all the other videos. Lots of cool stuff, not just WandaVision. Tons of cool DC stuff that these guys know way more about than I do.
Well, that we are definitely high on that side of the fandom, and we enjoy the Marvel stuff. But that's why we got both you guys in here with us, because we didn't want to try and act like we're any authoritative figure on the subject.
Yeah, no, it's awesome to have
I
you
am
guys in here for
definitely
sure.
not.
He has the Captain America shirt. He's just,
I just like
Not
America.
Oh, okay.
I didn't even know. It was
Got it.
Captain America. Just kidding. I do
Nah,
know
but
that.
we obviously hope you guys can come back again. It's always fun, and
Yeah.
I mean, like we said, we need some more Marvel knowledge. We're trying to like osmosis just absorb all this Marvel knowledge, so it's helpful.
Yeah. Well, if you two weren't here, Ryan and I would just be like, well, I mean,
That's good.
they-
like Office, Modern Family, and stuff.
Yeah, I like that.
I'll loan you that almanac I got. Study up.
There you go. Yeah,
Yeah.
free
We
gift.
need it. Yeah, but thanks everybody for joining in live. Everybody that commented,
Yes.
everybody that tuned
sure.
in, we appreciate it. We know it was kind of spontaneous. We weren't really planning on it until today, so
Yeah, we'll get
appreciate
smoother
that.
with it too. This is our first test on StreamYard, so hopefully it'll become a little smoother.
Yeah,
but
maybe
anyway,
Chris can figure out why his camera keeps shutting off.
Oh,
God.
it's too soon.
just bringing us down. Just kidding, Chris. We love you. All right, guys. Until next week. Later on.
So long.
Bye.
Yeah.